Wednesday, June 14th. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to do a garden update, and I'm going to start off by showing you our onion and garlic harvest. So we have two sets here. These are onions that we grew from onion sets. Basically, these were the onions that didn't get big last year, and so I stuck them back in, and they grew into these onions. When you do that, sometimes they'll send out a flower stalk, and I found that if you snip that flower stalk soon enough, it won't envelop the entire onion. If you wait too long, when you cut into these onions, while they look big on the outside, they're gonna have a foamy core and they're not usable. So these are this year's harvest. I didn't put too much effort into them, and this shows in the size. So next year we're gonna be spending a little bit more effort, and by effort meaning correctly timing them and finding them an adequate location to plant. And then here are our garlic for this year. I was very surprised by the size and quality of the Thai fire. We never got anything bigger or just looking just as great as they do this year. So we have, these are the ones that we're going to be using. And then here I found this is a good way to organize our seed garlic, and I feel like there's enough air drainage so that they don't get rotted. And I picked the best ones, and best is not really size. This best is ones that I think have a very nice tight wrapping. This paper keeps it fresh and from molding. So we got 3. I'm normally going to plant maybe 1 or 2 bulbs, so we have extras as backup. So these harvests came from just a couple of bulbs. This is the chestnut red. This year I left them in too long, so some of that outer wrapping has rotted away. It's not an issue. It just doesn't look as nice, and it's not an issue because we're normally going to eat this before any of that problem where the cloves dry out starts to set in. So we're going to start with these ones that have the exposed wrap, and then we'll work our way to the ones that have the tighter wraps. And then the other one we grew is a soft neck garlic from the market. So seed garlic can be very expensive. I think last I checked they were $17 a pound. You get these garlic, it's sometimes 75 cents a head. At $17 a pound, these things end up being like $10 each versus 75 cents. So it's possible to grow garlic from the market. Just look for ones that tend to look like they're grown locally, where they haven't been radiated or bleached. And then here, these are the seed garlic that we're saving, and you'll notice how tightly wrapped this garlic head is compared to, say, something like this. So here's an example. So this is a nice big garlic head, but the papers look very loose. And so this may not stay until October when we need to plant them. And then same for the chestnut garlic as well. So I'll show you the spelling, some of these, chestnut, Thai fire, and these are just the market garden. All right, let's head into our growing area. And the thing to report this year would be the tomatoes. With May Gray and June Gloom, the tomatoes have set a lot of fruit, so the pollen tends to get sterile above 80 degrees, and with these cooler temperatures the pollen just stays viable, and you get heavy fruit sets on these tomatoes. So this is the Costaluto Genovese, and they've never been better looking than this year, and we already have some that are ripening. Today's supposed to be partly cloudy, and I'm feeling a little bit of a drizzle right now. The other thing is we call the skies when it's mostly cloudy May Gray and June Gloom. And I found that with nature, there's winners and losers. And if we just focus on the negatives, then it's going to bring our feelings down. So what I found is May Gray is May glorious, and June Gloom is actually June Glam, because with the overcast, the flowers never look better. They radiate when you get some certain colors. They're really glowing. So you'll probably see some more flowers as I continue on the tour, and keep an eye out for that. We have this lattice that my neighbor gave me, and we also have some bed sheets, and this is to keep the light out of the greenhouse, and you'll see why in a few moments. Still waiting on the peaches to ripen, so they're taking a bit of their time to ripen. This year there's a heavy fruit set, but they're smaller, so I don't know if it's because of the weather or it's because I didn't thin them as liberally as I should, because this is probably the biggest one we have this year, and then the other ones are looking pretty small. So here maybe I should have, on this example, probably taken half that off that branch. I really thought this big tree would be able to sustain the growth, all the nutrients that it needs to make big plumpy peaches. So especially with all the rain that we got, I thought there would be a lot of water in the ground for it to just suck all that up and turn them into big peaches. But they're looking a little bit smaller this year. Maybe weather related, or maybe inexperience on my end. Maybe I need to thin them out some more. And I just noticed over here on our oxheart tomato, there is a caterpillar just eating away at this tomato. So it's camouflage right now. This is not one of the, what is it called, the tomato hornworms. This is a more of a cabbage lopper. So I'm gonna, since it's big and easy to pick, I'm going to grab him and feed him to the chickens later on. But when it comes to pest management, I practice what's called permissive with purpose. These plants have been grown in living soil, and we know all the conditions that make them healthy and robust. They're not going to be inundated with pests, and if there is one, it's not going to be a big problem. So you'll see signs of them when you see frass on the leaves. And when I garden early on and I practice more management style practices, it attracts a lot of bugs and pests, and I spent a lot of time looking for them and picking them off. In this style of growing, I just leave it alone until it becomes a big problem. And if it's a big problem, it's because I didn't do something for these plants to take care of them. So here's some more frass, and you can see this is drier. It's been here for a long time, and these plants still produce a lot. But if you practice more of a management style of growing, then yes, if you see bugs and critters, got to take care of them right away. Otherwise, you're going to lose your entire crop. So these are the oxheart tomato, and I didn't do a good job of saving their seeds. So I was down to enough seeds for one plant, and luckily it's grown. So now we have tomatoes, and we're going to have a lot of seeds to save for the next planting. This year, it looks like these are going to be smaller because these are heat-loving varieties. They need a lot of sunlight to grow those pound-sized tomatoes. So they're looking like maybe half a pound this year. We have some more tomatoes over here, and this is the Principe Borghese tomato, and we grow these for the early season cooking tomatoes. So we get these, we can color up a stew or some Spanish rice with them, and usually they set fruit and become ripened sooner. But this year it's just the Costoluto Genovese that's ahead. So you got some more ripe ones down there, and they've been so heavy that I've had to come in and help the plants with some extra support, like taking branches and with the elbow on the branch, they help to support the plant. Normally, as I said, we don't get this heavy fruit set, so this pole method of supporting growing tomato plants has been sufficient. They'll grow up, and it doesn't get so heavy that it sags down. And that's the other thing that you should look for as this tour goes on, is how we support our tomato plants. So the heavier variety gets these more robust trellises, like with this Craig La Hoyer Cherokee Purple. And this year it hasn't been the climate that it likes. This is one of those pound-sized ones, and it's growing more slowly because it hasn't been sunny. As far as our northern slope here, we have succession Roma tomatoes that are up there. We got some vining plants that will grow onto the fence over there, hedge, take up that space, the vertical space. We got some peppers that are just taking forever to grow because this is not pepper weather. And there are some strawberries up in those pots as well. And then I'm going to continue on and show you what's in the greenhouse. And they are day-old chicks that we received in the mail about a month and a half ago. And we're adding on to our flock of chickens. So they are in the greenhouse, and I have the the cloth to keep the temperatures lower for them. And we have an Easter egger, which is that white chick over there, and we got that one because it's a higher layer. And then we have a black copper Moran that's actually going to my brother, and then he sent over a Polish crested chicken. We originally ordered Splash Moran, but that chick arrived very weak and it passed away same day, so we don't have another Moran. And I really like the Moran chickens because they are a very pragmatic, good pasture chicken, and very dependable layer, quiet, and doesn't get into a lot of trouble. So it keeps this backyard kind of quiet, so you don't hear chickens calling all the time, especially when we're making these videos. Got some more roses. They're just vibrant because of overcast. And then over here we have cover crop. This is hairy vetch. This is something that we're growing for the first time as a cover crop. And so this little sliver didn't have any grass on it. We took advantage of it by growing something, and that's a cover crop. The other thing I want to show you are, so this is a Red Baron peach. This is another peach that we have. We also have some newer peach trees. That's the desert gold over there. And then that is August Pride. So these will allow us to get peaches in succession. So when this tree comes online, we'll get May peaches. And then usually that one will produce June peaches for us. June, July peaches. And then we'll get the August peaches from that tree when those make fruit. So this one's actually making some fruit this year. It's somewhere in there. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go hunting for them because I want to show you over here. We have the Amish paste tomato that's fruiting and setting fruit, and it's starting to turn color. So here's a nice big one right here. In this corner, it's hard to water because we have some of the low fence to keep the chickens out of this area, and I can't get to it because we have more onions down that way in the corn, and then this path is blocked by our raspberry in a pot. So when I watered it, I just kind of dumped a lot, and you can see what happens if you're not careful about watering. It can cause some issues where rust and mold can grow along with the stem and climb up. I think also the seeds might not be very fresh, so the plant is not as viable or robust. And maybe also the climate. This is one that I expected would be our early season tomato because it likes it's from the East Coast, so East Coast climate's more humid. And this year hasn't been East Coast like climate, so maybe this is why it's growing this way. And then next to it we have some Blue Beach tomatoes, and this is another big tomato, a paste tomato, and it also needs a lot of heat to make large fruit. So this year we're getting a little bit smaller fruit, but we're making up with the size by having a lot of the Costoluto Genovese. So the Blue Beach is a very interesting tomato. It's basically like a ox heart and a San Marzano tomato combined. And then in here we also have a watermelon plant that we are hoping that will grow. We may not have watermelon again this year because it's not been watermelon climate. And speaking of San Marzano, let me take you back to where our San Marzanos are growing, and let me show you the plant here. So here we have a very dense planting. We got the Italian squash. This is Black Beauty, otherwise known as a zucchini, and in Europe they call it courgette, and in Australia as well. I think that's the French way of calling summer squash. This is a Cherokee purple. We got some good fruit set, but at the same time, just not enough heat to make them big. And then here are some San Marzanos in here, and we got some fruit sets here. And then right in the middle, the plan is to let a vining plant grow up our coop chicken run business. and that is the national pickling cucumber. So you'll see that guy right here, and it's made the fruit for us. I don't know if you can see right there, national pickling cucumber. Eventually it'll overtake this fence here, this wire, but that plant again needs a lot of direct sunlight to get going. Speaking of our weather, it's been great for strawberries. So we've been harvesting a lot of strawberries. We grow a few varieties, and I found that the Chandler is perhaps my favorite one. It's very productive and tasty. And we also have some interesting varieties like the Mine Schindler, and they make these round berries with the seed that's set in. Let me try to get in closer for you so you can see. And its cousin is probably the pine berry, but this doesn't taste like a pine berry. This is actually a very juicy, sweet, flavorful berry. And one thing to note is, if you find this plant, there are two versions. The original version is pollen sterile, so you need another type of strawberry that has flowers at the same time to be able to pollinate these blossoms to turn into a Mine Schindler strawberry fruit. And I think that's gonna wrap it up for our garden update today. We're just waiting for the sun to come out, which is expected for a couple days, and then we're gonna get more of this overcast. And in the meantime, we're gonna start harvesting some of our tomatoes to cook them up. Today we're gonna make a beef stew with some macaroni, so more minestrone type of soup. All right, thanks again as always for visiting. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next update.